Revealed, the incredible journey of a homeless man, a legendary restorer's touching transformation. Jake sat hunched against the gritty brick wall, a tattered blanket wrapped around him like a protective shell. At 34, life had once been full of promised dreams of a loving family, a real job, and a sense of belonging. Now, he was just another face hidden in plain sight in a bustling city, surrounded by noise but feeling utterly alone. His heart ached with memories of laughter, warmth, and love, all stolen away by a relentless tide of tragedy. Each day, he fought against the bitter cold, but more than the icy wind, it was the chill of loss that cut the deepest. Not far from where Jake shivered against the wall, Bob lingered in his cluttered workshop. The old workspace was a sanctuary, overflowing with the scent of polished wood and memories. At 58, Bob was a master restorer. He breathed life back into beautiful pieces of furniture that others deemed broken, crafted tables, ornate chairs, all reflections of a time before his son had succumbed to the grip of addiction. The very sight of a chipped table reminded Bob of his son, as if every restoration was a long-lost prayer. Yet, amidst his beautiful creations, he felt a void, a hollow ache that whispered of grief and regret. On a cold winter's afternoon, a fierce storm hit the city, blanketing the streets in ice. Bob, pushing through the storm, found himself stepping into the warmth of a local shelter for the first time. It was a place he had avoided, a jarring reminder of the world's despair. But in that moment, he needed to break free from his isolation and find a way to honor his son's memory. The air was heavy with unspoken judgment when Jake and Bob's eyes met. An invisible wall of assumptions and biases rose between them. Bob saw a homeless man, while Jake felt like a ghost, unseen and unwanted. But the storm raged on, forcing them to take shelter together. It was there, amid the chaos and fear, that vulnerability seeped through their facades. "Do you think you can talk to anyone?" Jake broke the silence, his voice rough like gravel. "People only see what they want to see." He looked away, pain etched across his features. Bob's heart tightened. His own battles echoed in Jake's words, reminding him that everyone carried their burden. That moment of connection ignited something dormant in both men. They found solace in honesty, Jake sharing snippets of a life lost, love, battles fought, and the family he had lost. For the first time in years, Bob felt a flicker of empathy spark within him, thawing the ice around his heart. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With a newfound connection forged in shared suffering, Bob found himself drawn to mentorship. He invited Jake to join him in his workshop, teaching him the delicate art of restoration. As they labored over weathered wood, Jake uncovered buried dreams and Bob faced the specter of loss, stumbling through the poignant mix of grief and healing. As spring approached, they prepared for a community event, a showcase of their work, a celebration of transformation. But as Jake stumbled upon an old letter during their preparations, revealing ties to a family he thought lost to time, he hesitated on the brink of a decision. Standing there, he grappled with the weight of the moment. Could the restoration of furniture also lead to the restoration of family bonds? Could he dare to hope again? As both men faced their pasts, the air thrummed with unspoken possibilities, leaving the story hanging in a delicate balance. As winter slowly melted into spring, the world around Jake and Bob awakened with color and possibility. Each morning brought the sun's warmth a bit earlier, melting away the remnants of ice that had clung to them both physically and emotionally. Inside the workshop, the spirit of a new beginning thrummed through the air like a live wire. With each piece of furniture restored, the workshop pulsed with shared laughter and enthusiasm. Jake had uncovered talents he didn't know he possessed, carefully sanding down rough patches, bringing forth the grain hidden beneath years of neglect. The transformation wasn't just happening to the wood. It was happening within him too. He felt lighter. Each stroke of sandpaper chipped away the layers of despair that had been suffocating him. One afternoon, Bob handed Jake an antique writing desk, its surface marred by years of neglect. "This one's special," Bob said, eyes softening. "Once it's restored, it has the potential to serve as someone's creative sanctuary." As Jake worked on it, the weight of the letter he found pressed heavy on his mind. It was an invitation to a reunion he'd long thought impossible. With every scrape he made, thoughts of family flickered in and out of focus, like a candle struggling against the dark. "Is it bad if I'm scared?" Jake voiced one day, staring at the desk, still rough around the edges. Bob paused, his own past swirling in his thoughts. "Scared is good. It means you have something worth holding on to," he replied gently, sensing the tremor of uncertainty in Jake's voice. "Sometimes, finding the courage to move forward is the hardest part, but it can also be the most rewarding." Jake's heart raced. Did he dare to hope? Would it really be possible to reconnect? The thought danced tantalizingly close, but just as quickly, it receded, like waves pulling back from the shore. He remembered how many times he had let himself down before. Could he risk that again? The day of the community event arrived, bright and clear, buzzing with the sounds of laughter and anticipation. The space transformed into a gallery of forgotten beauty. Each piece, each story, gave life to layers of history that resonated with anyone who paused to admire them. Families wandered through, sharing memories and rekindling connections, blissfully unaware of the quiet turbulence brewing within Jake. Standing beside Bob, Jake watched the crowds, a mix of joy and trepidation coursing through him. "What if they don't want to see me?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Bob's eyes locked onto his, firm and grounding. "You won't know until you try," he advised. "Remember, the past may shape us, but it doesn't have to define us." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the golden glow illuminated the faces around them, spilling warmth and hope over every conversation shared and every memory rekindled. Jake caught a glimpse of Emily, a woman from his past, her laughter ringing like music. Memories rushed back, flooding over him like a tidal wave, as he recognized her even from afar. His heart pounded in his chest. All the years spent apart, all the sadness, regret, and hope converged into a single moment. Could he approach her? Would she see the man he had become, or only the shadows of who he once was? With a breath that felt heavy yet electric with possibility, Jake took a step towards her, driven by a sudden blend of courage and fear. The ground beneath him felt firm, yet the uncertainty ahead was daunting. But maybe this night could mark not just a celebration of their work, but the potential for something deeper, a chance for healing. Jake reached out, ready to touch his past once again, as if the restoration of the desk had sparked something greater within him. Would she embrace him, or would he be left standing alone, lost once more in the crowd? The tension hung thick in the air, inviting the next move, each heartbeat echoing the weight of what was at stake. Jake stepped forward, his heart thundering like a drum in his chest. As if sensing his approach, Emily turned, and for an instant, the world around them faded into a blur. There she was, familiar yet transformed, her hair catching the last rays of sunlight, and her eyes sparkling with the kind of joy that felt contagious. But as quickly as their eyes locked, he felt doubt creeping in. What if she didn't remember him? What if all the time between them had turned their once warm bond into a distant memory, as fragile as the old wood he had worked to restore? He took another breath, this time sharper. It was refreshingly cool, grounding him amidst the storm of emotions twisting in his belly. "Jake?" Her voice broke through the haze, soft and questioning, yet laced with a hint of surprise. She stepped forward, and he could see the curiosity in her expression, as if she was piecing together the fragments of a long-ago puzzle. "Emily." The name rolled off his tongue like a forgotten melody. A wave of nostalgia crashed over him, tugging at his heartstrings and pulling him back to days long lost. "You've been busy," she gestured toward the desk he had been working on. "It looks amazing." "Thanks," he said, taking a small step closer. "Bob and we've been restoring old furniture. It feels good." Each word carried with it the weight of his journey, not just as a craftsman, but as a man seeking redemption. "But what about you?" she asked, the warmth in her tone inviting him to share more. "What has been happening in your life?" Jake swallowed hard, voice trembling. "It's been a journey, more than I'd ever anticipated. I got lost for a while, but this," he gestured around the workshop, "this has helped me find a part of myself again." He watched as her face shifted with understanding. Before he could gather the courage for more, Emily stepped back slightly, a shadow falling over her expression. "I've thought about reaching out, you know. So many times," she admitted, her voice trailing off, the words hung between them, heavy with all the unspoken things left in the air, like memories waiting to be reclaimed. What was this longing they both felt? Could it be more than nostalgia? "Then why didn't you?" he asked, suddenly feeling brave. Emily's eyes glistened, reflecting an emotion Jake couldn't quite place. "It felt easier to move on. I thought, maybe time would heal things on its own. Maybe I thought you didn't want to be found." Just then, laughter erupted from a nearby group, momentarily bringing them back to reality. A small boy ran past, clutching a woodcarving Bob had made, and Jake watched as the child's eyes sparkled with wonder, the same type of wonder he felt looking at Emily. "Jake," she spoke his name gently, her voice bringing him back. "Life is messy, and we can't always fix everything. But seeing you here, it feels like a sign, like a chance." Jake's heart surged at the thought of possibility. Maybe we don't have to fix everything. Maybe we just have to start again. Their gazes locked, and for a moment, the crowded room faded away, and it was just the two of them, standing at the intersection of past and future, hope and fear. "Can we try?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake reached out tentatively, not sure what her answer might be. Would she grasp his hand, or pull away? Just then, the moment felt precarious, teetering on the brink of something transformative. As the faces around them blurred back into focus, a sudden determination filled Jake. He had taken the first step towards healing, the first step towards reconnecting, and now, everything hinged on this next moment. What would it take to mend their past? Could he really reach out, knowing that his heart hung in the balance? In that charged space, he waited for her reply, the air thick with anticipation. Would this be the moment that finally freed them both, or would they remain forever lost in their histories? Jake's breath hitched as he watched Emily's gaze deepen, enough to raise the stakes of their quiet connection even further. Time seemed to stretch around them, each passing heartbeat echoing the unsaid emotions thick in the air. Then, in a moment that felt suspended in time, she slowly stretched out her hand towards him, her fingers brushing against his. His heart jumped at the touch, warm and electric. It sent a surge of hope coursing through him. It was as though that simple contact unlatched the floodgates, letting in years of longing, confusion, and unshakable memories he thought he had tucked away for good. "I've missed you, Jake," she whispered, her voice trembling. The honesty in those words sent a ripple of joy through him. He stepped closer, pulling her hand fully into his, enveloped in a warmth that spread from his fingertips to the pit of his stomach. "I've missed you too, Em." "More than you know," he replied, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. The uncertainty that had once gnawed at him seemed to fade, replaced by a feeling of belonging he hadn't experienced in years. A collective laughter erupted from the nearby group again, sharpening the contrast between the playful moment around them and the intensity of their own. They were on the edge of something profound, a connection they thought had slipped away with time and silence. "Maybe we can create new memories together," she suggested, her smile breaking through the lingering shadows of the past. It felt like a dream, and Jake could hardly believe how possible it all seemed. "I'd like that," he replied, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "I'd really like that." They stood together, hand in hand, and for the first time in a long time, Jake felt the sturdy ground beneath him. The walls he had built around his heart softened as he recognized that perhaps there was still a chance to reclaim what they had lost. It was scary, though. What if they were too different now? Just as he began to unravel those thoughts, Emily broke the silence. But Jake, what if it doesn't go the way we hope? There was a hesitance in her voice that set off alarm bells in his mind. We can't always control how things unfold, he said, squeezing her hand gently. But what matters is taking the leap. If it's meant to be, we'll figure it out together. He locked eyes with her, hoping she could see the sincerity in his heart. She watched him for a moment, and he could practically see her weighing the possibilities in her mind. He sensed a flicker of doubt clouding her joy, and it made his stomach twist. Did she really want this? And what if he couldn't be the man she remembered? Let us start with coffee or lunch, she suggested cautiously. The tentative smile on her face was tinged with a mix of excitement and nerves. Just catch up, like old times. Jake felt a surge of hope. Yeah, definitely. I'd like that, a lot. His heart pulsed with anticipation, not just of seeing her again, but of exploring how they could begin anew, together. As they exchanged numbers, blooming promises of rekindled friendship and maybe more, he couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. With each minute detail, hope blossomed between them. The night's darkness deepened around them, yet within their shared space, everything felt bright. But just as he was about to step back and revel in the moment, a shadow crossed Emily's face, dimming the glow that had enveloped them. I should probably tell you I'm not the same person I once was. There's so much you don't know. His heart skipped a beat, a tinge of worry settling over him. What didn't he know? What had she been through? Then let us rediscover each other, he said, trying to keep the optimism afloat amidst the uncertainty brewing just beneath the surface. But as she hesitated, Jake sensed the enormity of the questions that lay ahead. What secrets did she hold? The world around them buzzed with life, but their moment felt pitted against a fierce tempest of their tangled past. Would they be able to make it through, or would the weight of unshared truth tear them apart? Again? Emily's gaze flickered away for a moment, as if the weight of the world had settled on her shoulders. Jake could see the battle in her eyes, a mix of fear, vulnerability, and a flicker of hope. He wanted to take that weight away, to reassure her that they could face anything together, but he was acutely aware of the walls she seemed to be building around herself. He started, searching for the right words. You can tell me anything. I promise. The sincerity in his voice caught her attention. She took a deep breath, her grip on his hand tightening slightly, as if anchoring herself to him. It's just, things got complicated after we lost touch. I've changed, Jake. It's not just about time, I've gone through some real struggles. Jake felt his stomach churn. He thought he had braced himself for anything, but he didn't want her burdens to overshadow this flicker of hope they had ignited. I've had my share of struggles too. I lost my way after, well, you know. But we've got a chance now to rebuild. Together. Emily looked away, her brows furrowing as she wrestled with her thoughts. The laughter from the nearby group faded into the background, and all he could hear was the pounding of his own heart, echoing his desperation to reach her. Jake, what if you don't like who I've become? What if you find out I'm not the girl you remember? Her voice trembled, and Jake felt a rush of protectiveness rise in him. I can't judge you for what you've been through. Everyone has a story. What matters is that you're here now, with me, he replied softly. She hesitated again, casting a glance at the ground as if looking for answers in the concrete beneath their feet. I've made mistakes. I've struggled to find my way back from them. I just don't want your life to be tangled up in my mess. Jake felt a pang of empathy coursing through him. We all make mistakes, Emily. What defines us is not what we've done but how we choose to move forward. Let us take this step together and see where it leads. With those words hanging heavily in the air between them, the distance began to close. Emily's expression softened, and that worry in her eyes flickered, just for a moment, like a candle caught in a soft breeze. "Okay," she conceded quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "But promise me you won't run away when things get tough, like last time." The words hung between them, each holding a memory of the past, of hurt, of unspoken emotions, and of a shared history that promised to be rewritten. "I won't. I promise," he vowed, feeling the weight of it on his shoulders. His heart surged with a mix of relief and anticipation as Emily nodded, a small, tentative smile slowly breaking through the remnants of her doubt. But the moment didn't last long. Just then, a raucous laugh erupted nearby, pulling them back into the present. Emily turned her gaze once more, and for a heartbeat, he wondered if all the laughter and light around them would overshadow their fragile step toward what could be. "Let us take that coffee, like we said, and I'll tell you everything," Emily suggested, her voice gaining a sense of resolve. As they turned to walk toward the cafe, Jake felt a thrill of nervous energy ride up his spine. This could be the start of something amazing, or it could lead to yet another heartbreak. He steeled himself for whatever lay ahead. But deep down, an unsettling thought loomed: what was so difficult for her to share that she hadn't revealed yet? What secrets lay between them, waiting to surface? And as they walked side by side, anticipation filled the air. Would their reunion heal old wounds, or would the shadows of their past threaten to pull them apart once again? The cafe came into view, a cozy little spot with warm yellow lights spilling onto the sidewalk. Jake's heart raced. 1,000 questions flipped through his mind, but none of them would help now. Only patience could bridge the gaps they faced. Emily opened the door, and the tiny bell above jingled softly. The rich aroma of coffee enveloped them, mingling with a chorus of low conversations and laughter. They found a small table tucked away in a corner, the perfect reprieve from the world outside. "You want anything specific?" Jake asked, trying to lighten the heaviness that followed them inside. She smiled faintly, her eyes wandering over the menu. "Surprise me." After he ordered drinks, the small talk felt awkward but necessary. Moments passed where they both just stole glances at each other, feeling the weight of what was unspoken settle heavily between them once more. "Okay," Emily finally said, breaking the silence. Her voice was firm yet laced with an undeniable tremor. "I'll start. Just promise me you'll listen. No interruptions." Jake nodded, his heart pounding with both excitement and anxiety. This was the moment they'd been tiptoeing around. She took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts like scattered puzzle pieces. "I moved after graduation. Thought it would help. I chased a job, thinking it was the key to my happiness." She looked away for a moment, eyes clouding over with memories she clearly wished she could set aside. "Instead, I lost myself. There were deadlines, pressures I never anticipated. And when I stumbled, it felt too hard to turn back." Jake leaned in, the surge of empathy blooming in his chest. "What do you mean, stumbled?" "The pressure to succeed led to choices I regret deeply. I got involved with people who only wanted to use me. I thought I was being accepted, but I was just another part of their game." She swallowed hard, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. "I lost my job and then everything else seemed to go down with it. I didn't know how to ask for help. I hid from everyone I cared about, including you." Jake's heart twisted at her confession. "Emily. You should have reached out." "I know," she said, voice cracking slightly. "But I was ashamed. I didn't want you to see me like that, a failure." Everyone struggles. It doesn't make you a failure," he reassured her gently. Emily's lips pursed, and the faintest flicker of resolve sparked in her eyes. "I didn't know how to come back from that, Jake. Not alone. But I am trying. I'm really trying." He could see the battle in her soul, the fight against the shadows of her past, and if it wasn't painfully human, it would be beautiful. Yet, there was still so much left to unravel. He felt as if he barely scratched the surface. "What do you mean when you say you're trying?" He pressed gently, wanting her to dig deeper. Suddenly, her eyes lit with determination. "I've started volunteering at a homeless shelter. It's where I found some purpose again. I thought if I could help others, maybe I could help myself too." Her sincerity wrapped around Jake like a warm blanket, but there was concern lodged deep in his heart. "That sounds incredible, Em. But it can't be easy. Are you okay? Really?" She paused, clearly weighing her words before responding. "It's challenging, but being there reminds me that everyone has a story. It connects me to the humanity I thought I lost." Though genuine, her revelation brought another lump of worry to his throat. She was healing, but how much of herself had she left behind in the process? As their drinks arrived, they shared a moment, the steam from their cups mingling with the emotions in the air. He reached forward, placing his hand on hers, hoping to convey warmth and understanding in that simple gesture. But just as she opened her mouth to speak again, a loud commotion erupted from a nearby table. A man stood, visibly upset, his hands throwing animated gestures as he shouted. The laughter that filled the cafe moments ago faded into an uneasy silence. Jake's heart raced again. What was going to happen next? Was this a distraction, or a sign that their world was about to shift once more? Emily's tense look told him she felt the weight of it too. As the chaos lingered, he wondered, could their fragile moment withstand the storm brewing beyond their bubble? The man's voice boomed through the cafe, cutting into the fragile moment they had created. Everyone's attention snapped to him. Anxiety rippled through the air like a live wire. Jake felt Emily tense beneath his hand, her fingers gripping his like a lifeline. "Why don't you just leave me alone?" the man shouted, his face flushed with frustration. He was incoherent, his words tumbling over each other in a desperate attempt to convey something profound. Jake couldn't help but watch, feeling drawn into the drama unfolding. "Shut up. Nobody wants to listen to a bum like you." A voice from another table sneered, splattering contempt across the scene. Gasps rang out amongst the cafe patrons as the confrontation hung like a dark cloud, tension wrapped around Jake and Emily like a vice. She shifted uncomfortably, her eyes locked on the man, who looked like he was on the verge of breaking apart, emotionally and visibly. Jake could see her heart aching for him, mirroring the sorrow they both felt. "Enough." The man's voice trembled, a mixture of anger and pain. "You don't know what it's like to lose everything." His eyes were wild, scanning the room, but they landed on Emily. "Look, if you want to judge, go ahead. But some of us are just trying to survive." The atmosphere thickened, charged with a collective empathy that seemed to surge through everyone present. Emily's grip on Jake tightened as she leaned forward, her expression softening. "You're right, we don't know. But we're willing to listen if you want to share your story." The man's eyes darted around, and for a moment, Jake thought he might retreat. Instead, he seemed to take a breath, the storm inside him settling just a little as he looked at Emily. A flicker of vulnerability appeared. It was a rare moment of connection in a world that often chose to turn away. "Who cares about my story?" he spat out, but there was less fire in his voice now. "It's a sad one, full of mistakes. Nothing to tell." Emily's voice danced through the air like a soft melody. "Maybe it's the mistakes that can bring us closer together. We all fall down, but it's what we do next that matters. You're not alone." Jake watched as the man's defenses began to crumble. The desperation in his eyes gave way to something else: recognition, perhaps even an understanding of the comfort Emily was trying to extend. "What's your name?" Emily asked gently. "Mark," he muttered, the word barely escaping his lips with all the weight of his past. "Hi, Mark. I'm Emily, and this is Jake." She gestured between them, and he noticed that the way she spoke seemed to conjure warmth instead of judgment. "Why don't you sit with us? We'd love to hear more." For a moment, the cafe was silent, every pair of eyes curiously watching the shift, the energy crackling and brightening the air. Maybe, just maybe, this moment had the power to heal more than just one person. Mark hesitated, glancing at the other customers who were still whispering among themselves. The vulnerability returned rapidly. "Why would you want to listen?" he asked, skepticism lacing his tone. "What's in it for you?" Jake could feel Emily's frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "Because every story matters. It shapes who we are. We've all lost something. Maybe it's time we started finding it together." He felt a heat rising in his chest. The weight of their past experiences coupled with the raw honesty of the moment made it clear, this was bigger than coffee and conversation. Mark shifted his stance, clearly wrestling with his own emotions. A crack in his armor became visible, the hardened shell melting as he mulled over Emily's words. The room felt alive with potential, the tension hung thick, ready to burst, but as Jake looked into Emily's eyes, he could see a different kind of storm brewing. Hope. Would Mark choose to reveal his truth? And what would that mean for Jake and Emily? He couldn't help but wonder if this was the turning point they needed in their own story. The heating crowd and old ghosts still lingered, but for the first time, change seemed possible. Suddenly, Mark took a deep breath, stepping forward. "Okay, I'll tell you." And just like that, the cafe held its breath, waiting for the truth to unfold. Would this broken man help mend Emily, and maybe even himself? And what ripple effects would their connection create for all three of them? Mark straightened up, his shoulders slightly less hunched. The sound of clinking coffee cups faded into the background as he focused on Emily and Jake. The soft buzz of the cafe seemed to disappear, leaving only the three of them in a small bubble of shared space and unspoken promise. "Okay," his voice faltered, cracking slightly as he tried to find the right words. "My life, it didn't always look like this." He glanced down for a moment, as if searching in the depths of his memories. "I was a father once, with a good job, decent money, a home. Somewhere along the way, I lost it all. You think you're invincible, right? Then life just happens." Jake leaned in, feeling each word as it slipped from Mark's lips. "I made mistakes. Bad ones. I didn't value what I had until it was gone." Tears brimmed in Mark's eyes, reflecting the stark pain etched into his features. "I lost my job first. Just like that, I went from having a routine to nothing. To struggling to make it through each day." Emily nodded compassionately, holding his gaze. "It's easy to lose our way when we face such challenges. But it takes a lot of strength to stand here and share that with us." Mark's expression softened a bit at her words. "I didn't just lose my job, though. I lost my family. My daughter, she was my whole world. I couldn't provide for her, and one day, she just stopped taking my calls. I kept saying I'd fix things. But I was so wrapped up in my shame that I didn't reach out." The cafe remained hushed, almost reverent, as if everyone knew they were witnessing something sacred. Jake squeezed Emily's hand tighter, both sharing this collective moment of humanity together. "The streets became my home," Mark continued. "Every day was survival, and every night was like falling asleep with a weight pressing on my chest. I was invisible to most people. But you," his eyes found Emily's once again, carrying a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "You saw me. You actually saw me." "It's hard not to see you now," Emily replied softly, her voice breaking a little. "You're not just a story, you're a person. A person with a heart willing to fight for what he cares about." Mark's brow furrowed, and for the first time, Jake noticed a flicker of hope in his eyes, battling against years of despair. "I don't know if I can go back from this. I don't even know where to start." "Starting is the hardest part, but it's also the most important," Jake said, feeling the urge to reach out. "You've already taken the first step by sharing this with us. Small steps can turn into something great." Mark inhaled deeply as if a weight had lifted, if only slightly. "I want to try. I really do." The tremor in his voice was still present, but there was a new edge of determination woven into it. Emily smiled, her face lighting up like a glimmer of hope. Then let us try together. We can find resources, local shelters, support systems. There's strength in numbers. Their connection hung like a thread, fragile yet powerful. Jake couldn't help but think about his own struggles, how often he felt like he was drowning in uncertainty, just like Mark. Maybe helping him was a way to help themselves too. Around them, the rest of the cafe began to stir again. Whispers echoed softly, but they weren't hostile anymore. There were nods of understanding, smiles of recognition. Mark had become a part of their shared story, just as Jake and Emily were finding their own intersection. "Thank you," Mark finally said, his voice slightly steadier. "I don't know what is going to happen from here, but I feel lighter." As they all shared a moment of eye contact, a collective understanding passed between them. This could be a turning point, not just for Mark, but maybe even for Jake and Emily too. Just then, the cafe door swung open, and a gust of wind swept in. A woman in a red sweater entered, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. She surveyed the scene, taking in the unusual gathering of hope and vulnerability. Jake tensed slightly, wondering if she'd disrupt this fragile moment. But as her gaze met Mark's, it was clear she too was here to listen. "Hey! What is going on?" she asked, stepping closer. And with her question, the air shifted once again. Would this stranger join their circle, bringing new challenges or new support? Jake felt a soaring mix of excitement and trepidation. The story was far from over. The woman in the red sweater stepped forward, a kind expression softening her features. Her curly hair bounced as she moved, and Jake caught a glimpse of determination in her eyes. "I heard you talking about wanting to start over," she said gently. "I'm Mia. Can I join you?" Mark's initial surprise faded into cautious curiosity. Sure," he replied. "I was just opening up about my past." Mia nodded, her understanding gaze encouraging him. "It's not easy, is it? Talking about loss. But sometimes sharing it can be the first step toward healing." Mark hesitated for a moment, the rawness of his emotions competing with the fresh feeling of hope that was blooming in him. "No, it isn't. I've been carrying this for so long. It feels both heavy and freeing to finally share it." Emily leaned closer, encouraging Mark with an inviting smile. "Mia, this is Mark. He's trying to find his way back." "Absolutely," Mia said, her spirit brightening with each word. "I believe it's possible. I've seen people transform their lives, and it's nothing short of miraculous. Just last month, I helped a family find a shelter and get back on their feet." Jake felt a rush of excitement pumping through him. The idea of tangible help was simmering just out of reach, but within grasp. "What do you suggest, Mia? Where do we begin?" Mia leaned her elbows on the table, her enthusiasm contagious. "First, let us talk about resources. There's a community center nearby that connects people in need with various programs. They're really supportive." Mark listened intently, his eyes shining a little brighter. It was as if each word from Mia was weaving a safety net under him, so he could take a step forward without fear of falling. "But what if I mess up again?" he asked, vulnerability lining his voice. Mia shook her head, a reassuring smile spreading across her face. "We all stumble. The important thing is to get back up. Trust me, the more you try, the stronger you become. And you won't be alone in this." Jake felt a flicker of determination igniting within him at Mia's words. They resonated with his own struggles of feeling lost. "You're right. I want to help Mark, but I also want to find my own way. Sometimes I feel like I'm drifting, too." Emily squeezed his hand, sharing an unspoken agreement about the rawness of their own journeys. Mia's gaze shifted back to Mark. "It's never wrong to ask for help. It's a strength, not a weakness. Could we set up a meeting at the community center?" They'll have a ton of resources for you to explore. Mark's heart quickened, the thought of reaching out no longer shrouded in fear. Yeah, I'd like that, I truly would. The thrum of collective hope surged around the small table, fueled by shared stories and the promise of new beginnings. Just as they were reaching the tip of a potential breakthrough, the cafe door swung open a second time. A man in a worn coat stepped in, his eyes darting nervously to each table. Mark recognized that look, the uncertainty of someone searching for connection. Is there a place here for people like me? The man asked, his voice shaky. Mark felt a rush of empathy rising within him. He glanced at Mia and then at Emily. It was time for them to reinforce that circle of strength. Absolutely, Mark replied, his heart beating fiercely as he gestured for the man to join them. We're just getting started. As the man took his seat, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that their little band was becoming more than just a support group. They were building something significant, a small community whose reach had just begun, and in that moment, the spark of hope flickered brighter than ever. What might happen if they all came together? Could this be the beginning of something transformative for them all? With new lives intertwined around that table, Jake wondered how many more stories awaited them, how many more people needed to be seen, to be heard. Could this ripple effect extend far beyond the cafe walls? The path ahead shimmered with potential, but one question loomed large: were they ready to take it on? As dawn broke, Jake woke up to the soft light filtering through the workshop windows. He smiled, the remnants of winter's chill fading from his heart. Today was different, it was the day of change, a day brimming with promise. The emotions from last night lingered like a sweet echo, resonating in his soul. It wasn't just about the people in the cafe anymore, this was about him, about Emily, about community. Jake walked through the workshop, admiring their progress, the pieces of furniture gleaming with a new life. Bob was already at work, his hands busy with an old chest, but his eyes sparkled with the joy of revival. When he noticed Jake, he paused and gave him an encouraging nod. Ready for the big day? Bob asked, an excited smile stretching across his face. More than ever, Jake replied, his heart racing. He could feel change stirring within him, a vibrant energy pushing him forward. As the hours passed, the workshop buzzed with anticipation. They had rearranged furniture, added bright decorations, and even hung up banners detailing everyone's stories. The room was transformed into a gallery, a canvas of hope and resilience. Jake felt pride swell in him, knowing it was more than just wood and paint, it was a reflection of their shared journey. When the doors opened for the community event, people streamed in. Jake's palms grew sweaty, his heart pounded like a drum. He glanced at Bob, who gave him a nod of reassurance. Just be yourself, Bob whispered. This is your moment. Emily arrived, her presence like a warm sunbeam cutting through the morning fog. She scanned the room, her eyes lighting up when they met Jake's. They stepped closer, feeling the comforting pull they shared beneath the chaos. Wow, she breathed. It's beautiful. Jake beamed. All of this, it feels like a new beginning. As they welcomed the first visitors, conversations flowed like the refreshing lemonade by the entrance. Families admired the restored furniture while sharing their own stories of transformation. Jake felt energized, buoyed by the connections springing to life. Each conversation was a thread weaving them closer together, each laugh ringing with harmony. Then Mark walked in, battle scars etched across his face but determination shining from within. He glanced around nervously, but Jake saw the flicker of hope rising in him. Without hesitation, Jake stepped forward, extending a hand. Mark. Welcome back, man, he said, the warmth spilling from his voice. Mark's eyes widened, then softened, and as he shook Jake's hand, a newfound confidence began to bubble forth. This place feels different. Like I truly belong. Yes. Jake exclaimed, feeling the truth of those words echo. This is a community, we're here for each other. Mia arrived too, a radiant beacon ready to lend her spirit. Her enthusiasm lit up the room as she called for everyone's attention. We're all here for a purpose to support one another. With a lightness in their hearts, people began sharing their stories. Mark spoke openly about his journey, how he was embracing the help he'd once feared, and how he hoped to be a voice of encouragement for others who felt lost. Jake glanced at Emily, who beamed with pride. In that moment, he realized how much they had both healed, transformed by vulnerability, just like the furniture around them. As the day unfolded, they watched families mingle with stories of hope. Everyone celebrated the beauty of what had been restored not just in wood but in connection and humanity. When the event wrapped up, the workshop hummed with an energy not just of accomplishment but of kinship. Jake felt fulfilled, as if every brushstroke had been a step toward finding himself again. Emily took his hand, her eyes brimming with unshed tears of joy. "I couldn't imagine a better outcome. You've come so far, Jake." We've come so far," he replied, their fingers intertwined, grounding them in every moment they had fought for. As Jake left the workshop that evening, he gazed at the sunset painting the sky in hues of orange and lavender, symbolizing beginnings yet unwritten. With each step, he felt lighter, freer, a man who had found a place to belong again. In that shared journey, he realized transformation was no longer a solitary fight. It was about community, about lifting each other up and finding strength not just in their own stories, but in the collective courage they had all fought to reclaim. And as night fell, Jake turned to his friends, the flicker of hope dancing in their eyes. Together, they stepped into this new chapter, ready to embrace whatever came next. Please take a moment now. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you even more. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this journey alive. Comment below to share your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And remember, don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means the world to us.